as a mother, you need different exercise protocol to other people because you cannot keep up with 5, 6 fucking training days. You have all this spare time on your hands. It's not like hello and welcome to another vlog on YouTube and podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Coach Mariah Jean here, the Fit Minds podcast. Another episode. I have missed a couple of episodes. I do apologize. I get sick just like anybody else does. I did get sick last week. My daughter was unwell and I was unwell, so decided to be kind to myself on that week. And oftentimes it is a case of looking at your routine and schedule looking slightly different than what it usually does, for you to then be able to even just survive the week and get through. So, but the only thing that didn't go to shit was my food. So I think the importance of that through those times cannot be reiterated enough for mums. Don't let go of your food ever. If there's one thing you can keep stable, it's your food. Okay, so I'm gonna cook spaghetti bolognese today. I'm gonna wash my hands because I always start my podcast with washing my damn hands. Sorry guys, gonna jump back on screen in a second. All right. So I'm making spaghetti bolognese. I make this for the whole family. So I make some for myself, my partner, and my daughter. It's like a family staple. And what I've got here, just so you guys know what this is, extra lean beef mince. For those listening to the podcast, extra lean beef mince is just better because there's less fat, so less calories, and you get more protein for each 100 grams. I've got pulse pasta, which is chickpea pasta. It's fully made of chickpeas, so if you're gluten-free, great option. Brown rice pasta, same thing. Main reason I don't have a lot of wholemeal pasta is because I sometimes have like bread or wheat in my lunch. And I like to be able to alternate the different grains that I'm eating. I find if I eat too many grains for some weird reason, for me personally, like rice and wheat, I can definitely have some, but if I have too much, I get really bad, like itchy scalp from my psoriasis. And my gut health is off a bit too from that. But I just find the balance is just literally, I have potato and I have chickpeas. I like actually include legumes in my diet, and pasta. This pasta is literally in the shape of pasta, but it's just made of brown rice and chickpeas. It's my secret hack. So, tinned tomatoes, zucchini, carrot, pumpkin, grater, and some herbs and spices. I'm gonna grate some of these veggies in here, and I've got my pans ready to go there. Though is about, what is this podcast about today about? It is about why do you need, that's right, I remembered. Why do you need personalized nutrition as a mum? So why do you need to have something personalized to you rather than just following like a cookie cutter program from the internet or something that your partner is doing, or you know what I mean? Why do you need personalized nutrition? So we're going to dive into a couple of reasons. There's actually quite a few. But the main reason being, like obviously the whole plethora of things that come off this topic, is that you, as an individual person, as a woman, will have different requirements in order to be able to lose body weight, lose fat, have increased energy, etc. And that will differ not only from person to person, but from male to female and from different age groups as well, okay? And we also need to consider, if you're a mum, you have gone through the significant trauma and stress of birth and also sleep deprivation. So this is why, and also your routine is different. So we're looking at a number of different factors here. This is why I think prior to becoming a mum myself, I could program all sorts of things for all sorts of people, right? And I physically could. But I could never really fully understand what it was like to be in a mother's shoes until I was in them. And I hate saying that because it's definitely not to invalidate those who are not mothers and to say that they don't know. But you don't until you do. And that's not an emotional dig at anybody or like, you know, it's not me being vicious. It's more that Trust me when I say there are days where you don't wish you were in the position where you were sleep deprived, and there are days you wish that you could have your old life back, and that's really fucking drastic to say. I'm sure people would be very grateful to have kids and be in your spot, but it's okay to have those like polarizing emotions about something that you also enjoy and you also love, right? So it's different for mothers. Nutrition needs to be personalized for mums, and not just for the fact that you're a mum, but also things like your body weight, your height, your everything. Whether you suffer with a chronic illness or disease, whether you find that certain times of the month, and this is pretty common for most women, that your hunger hormones go up and you get hungrier than usual. And there are all sorts of methods of intervention. Whoop, that was loud. Intervention, I'm trying to cut my pumpkin really quietly, I'm probably not doing that, that we can use as nutritionists. You guys are gonna be like, what the hell is she doing on camera? If you're watching the YouTube video. Nutrition interventions that we can use that can actually help you to navigate different times of your cycle. And also, if you're, for example, a certain body weight, let's say you've started your journey at 100 kilos, and I do have a lot of women who start around 100 or 110, 120 kilos, and I'm pretty neutral to numbers. To me, it doesn't mean anything, right? It's just a person with feelings and thoughts and experiences just like anybody else. And I think if they are falling into those ranges of obesity, technically, that their life and their confidence is impacted heavily, right? So I actually think it's, you know, if anything, there is so much urgency around shifting them away from not the number, but more getting to a point of health, right? So if you're 100 kilos or over, even 90 ranges depending on your height, as a woman, you are probably defaulting to this idea, and this is partially where I see mums go wrong and completely slide off track, is they default to this idea that they have to be on low calories, and they don't even know they don't even know what calories they're actually meant to be on, because they just assume, well, because I've got a lot of body fat to lose, I'm 100 kg plus, I've got a lot of body fat to lose, my calories need to be low, right? Wrong. And this is the problem, is that there's just no education behind this. I've seen so many women in that 100 kilo plus range that have been dieting on 1,200-1,300 calorie diets, which is just like honestly astonishing that that's even happening. But somehow they've found that answer on the internet, or, you know, they've tried to get free advice or cheap advice, and they've been stuck on these low calories, and they've been stuck in a cycle of restriction and purging and binging, and this whole like, why don't I have self-control? And so their idea in their head is that I don't have good willpower, I don't have self-control, I'm, you know, terrible at being able to say no to things and turn foods down, and they just keep going through this process of starve, deprive, eat barely anything, and then binging. And it's like, this is where we have to say, not only as a woman, if you're in the, you know, obese weight range, I hate using the word obese, but we have to say that your nutrition differs from someone, and your nutrition requirements to lose weight differs from someone who's in the 50 to 60 kilo range. And it's mind-blowing that there are still women out there that are on the same calories, whether they're 50 kilos or 100 kilos, thinking that that's the answer. And even for someone who's 50, 60 kilos, 1,200 calories still isn't enough food. So that needs to go out the window, we know that. But cutting your calories significantly lower than what they should be, right, doesn't make the weight loss happen faster. It basically puts you in a position where you're so hungry that you can't control yourself, where your body will send hunger hormones to your tummy, where you will not feel full, where you will get sugar crashes, where you will have low blood sugar, and where you will suffer. And as a mum, this is worse. It's tenfold. So part of the reason why a lot of women struggle with losing the weight postpartum and keeping it off is because they already had a really poor relationship with food. And then you add in stress, sleep deprivation, being time poor, and then the kind of fear of failure and worrying about showing up for your kids and everything like that, the mental load, and that's a recipe for a very slippery slope to excessive weight gain. I honestly wish sometimes I could just like somehow telepathically put my knowledge into someone else's head, just so we could skip this whole motherfucking process of explaining things, and so that you could just get to applying it. Because once you're actually there and you've got the tools and the plans and you figure it out and everything clicks, your entire life changes, right? Wouldn't that be the dream, to be able to just download someone's brain? I'm sure we'll do it somehow scientifically one day. But for now, we have coaching, we have support, we have free resources, we have whatever we can, this podcast, to be able to help you understand why you need to stop being so hard on yourself. And I see this quite commonly as well. It's not just people, mums in heavier weight ranges, and I say heavier because it is heavier. Nothing against anyone who is heavier, it's just that's what we consider to be heavier and you know, not as heavy. I mean higher weight ranges, maybe I should use that word. So when we see women in the higher weight ranges, not just those low calories and depriving themselves, but also the feeling of not wanting to feel full. I see this a lot, you know, they don't want to eat volume, they don't want to eat fruits and vegetables because it makes them feel full. And they don't like the feeling of fullness because they associate fullness with guilt that they're overeating their food. And this is really dangerous stuff, right? So that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But then we have the issue of women doing things that with nutrition that men are doing. So I actually posted a post, well, I will be posting it today, but technically once you've seen this, yeah, it'll be done already. But I posted a post, go have a look at it on my socials, about how you shouldn't follow the same routine as your male counterpart, as your partner. And that joke of like, we all talk about it, my partner, he's able to lose weight really easily and quickly and I'm not. It's like, yeah, because men have what's called a higher metabolic rate than us. So there's a few factors that influence metabolic rate, what's called BMR or RMR, basal metabolic rate, resting metabolic rate. All that is just a terminology for how much energy that your body burns naturally, daily, without moving, because we burn energy, our energy is expended as heat from the body. All that is terminology for what your body burns without you having to do anything, and it's based on a number of different factors: your age, your height, your sex, male or female, all of those types of things, right? And your genetics. Genetics play a minor role in it, but it is partially genetics. And body weight. Body weight's another factor which people often don't consider. They probably think about male versus female, and they probably think about, okay, I've got to consider my age, but they don't think about my body weight is one of those numbers. So this influences basal metabolic rate. Now, basal metabolic rate is meaning how much energy you burn naturally throughout the day, is higher if you're a male, is higher if you weigh more, and is higher if you're younger. Not by much though. It's funny, people think that's the biggest difference with basal metabolic rate, not particularly. Is higher if you're taller. So if you're a short woman who's like in her 60s and you weigh 60 kilos and you're trying to lose weight, it will take you a long time to lose a small amount of weight. Why? Your age, because yes, age does impact metabolic rate, not a lot, but it does. Your weight, because you're on the lower end of the range, and then you've also got your height, so if you're shorter. And then another factor is lean body mass. The more muscle mass you have, the more energy you naturally burn just breathing, right? Your BMR is quite high. So now we're understanding these terminologies. So in that case, if you have more muscle, it is protective and counteractive of the aging process, which reduces metabolic rate over time slowly, but only by small amounts. And honestly, most of it's associated with the muscle mass reducing. Not necessarily aging, but the muscle mass reducing. So if we can keep lean body mass up throughout our lives as much as possible, especially as women, then we can actually, weirdly enough, reverse the process of not necessarily aging, but the impact of time working against us for our muscle tissue, and then reducing our metabolic rate and making it really hard to lose body fat, right? You want a high metabolic rate, and you can't get taller overnight, yeah? And if you weigh more, if it's more body fat, sure, you'll burn more, but you'll have more body fat. And if you're getting older, you can't change that. What can you change? You can change your muscle mass. You can increase your muscle mass. And so by doing that, you're inadvertently increasing your metabolic rate. Now, it's not massive, it's not substantial, but every kilo of muscle that you have counts. So my body naturally burns lots of energy. People look at me and they're like, oh, how are you eating so much food? Why is your deficit so high, your calorie deficit? How can you eat that many calories and still stay so lean? Few reasons why. I don't cut my calories too low and then binge. So that's one thing I learnt from years of being an anorexic bulimic and going around in circles. But I also have lots of muscle, and muscle is so metabolically dynamic. It is an energy burning machine, and muscle burns energy without you even having to use it, because you require obviously oxygen, etc., to keep this muscle alive and keep it going, right? And the process of this muscle turnover every day is quite energy taxing. So in short, having muscle is a good thing. And this is why I harp on about why Pilates isn't necessarily the best choice of exercise, because Pilates will build very, 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 very small amounts of muscle tissue, but it's pretty negligible. And as we age, you need to be doing resistance training. You just stop avoiding resistance training, because that is literally the key to maintaining a healthy dynamic metabolism as you age. So I went off on a tangent right there. I'm going to put this pasta in the pot. So, oh, that's too much pasta. So, I'm going to put some more back in the box, and we're going to go half brown rice and half chickpea. So what else influences, sorry, I've got cinematic mode on today. What else influences, oh, that sounds like ASMR. I wonder whether you guys can hear this. All right, that's enough. There we go. I feel like I fixed our pasta dilemma. So what else impacts why you need personalized nutrition, right? So we've just established men burn more than us. You burn more if you're taller. You burn more if you weigh more. So what else impacts metabolic, actually not metabolic, the reason why you need personalized meal plans and personalized food, right? So we've talked about metabolism. We've talked about, okay, we know that every individual person has a completely different set of numbers and factors that we take into consideration when programming. This is why when you go on the internet and you go and get your macros done, and you're like, oh, I just got it from this random macro calculator, or I'm following the same calories as my best friend or my brother or my dad or my freaking husband, or I'm eating the same meals as my husband, the issue with doing that, you never know how much pasta I'm going to use, hey. The issue with doing that, there we go. The issue with doing that is that those calories, those protein requirements, their carbs, right, everything, none of that is what's meant for you. Right? You need to have personalized macros, calories, etc. to your stats. More than anything, first and foremost, right? Just going to stick this pasta on, guys. I tell you what, this is multitasking at its finest, but I'm a busy mum. Sorry if you've got like a great shot of my left shoulder here on YouTube. I'm a busy mum. I don't have fucking time to fuck around and not make dinner at the same time as doing a podcast. So make sure I don't burn anything, because I'm not very good at multitasking, I'm not going to lie. So what else is the reason why we would need personalised nutrition? Ask yourself this. Why? Why else do mums need personalised nutrition? And training, right? You cannot follow the same training program as a dude, as a chick without kids, now this is not a stab at anybody, it's just the truth. You cannot try to keep up with, because there's not a fucking competition, everyone else. Why? You've added a whole human into your life, if not multiple of them. Some of you have 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids, more. Why'd you do that? No, I'm joking. I genuinely, like, when I hear people have got 5, 6 kids, I know you probably hate hearing this, but how? And are you okay? And you're my hero. Like, I struggle with one. I really do. So I'm sure that it gets easier or whatever with more. Maybe it doesn't. You're just going insane. Or you get better at it. Anyway, so that's a tangent. As a mother, you need different exercise protocol to other people, because you cannot keep up with 5, 6 fucking training days. You have all this spare time on your hands. It's not like, you know, you sit around twiddling your thumbs waiting for text messages to roll in. You dread it when your phone goes off. You dread it when you get a fucking phone call. You dread it when the fucking daycare calls you, the school calls you, or someone calls you and says, oh, we need you. You dread it when your kids say, Mom, every 2 seconds. You get distracted every 2 seconds, and you do not have the motherfucking time to fit in 5, 6 training sessions, to go to the gym 5, 6 times a week. And this is something that I've become really passionate about since seeing this hole in the industry, because like I was that coach. I was the coach, childless coach, programming, I'm not proud of it, programming 5 training days for mums and being like, you can do it, you know, like being super motivational. Like, yeah, you can get 5. Now, look, honestly, if your kids are older and they're busy and they're doing shit, maybe you want the 5 training days to keep you occupied because it scares the shit out of you. Your kids are growing up. But maybe you don't. Maybe you're going through menopause and the kids are older, and maybe 5 training days is just too much for your fucking body while you're going through menopause, and that's perfectly fine. There is no advantage, no advantage to doing 5 training days a week. In fact, studies actually support 3 resistance training sessions, 3 to 4. Being optimal for recovery, adequate recovery. I mean, you just need to eat more food if you train more, but also just finding that balance as to what you actually need for your goals. And training more doesn't necessarily burn more fat. The amount of energy you burn in a training session, I've said this in a podcast before, is negligible, especially as a woman. It's barely anything. It's a couple hundred calories at the most, right? In the big scheme of things, in comparison to your daily step count, it's not really that notable. It's called your exercise activity thermogenesis, EAT. Now, what I discovered was a really common thing across the board with mothers of late is this pressure they place on themselves to train in the gym or to train at all, to exercise at all. You know, I can't get to exercise, I can't do this, and then I can't lose weight. And it's like, but what if I told you that you could still lose the body fat without having to do the training? You could start with that, and I've said this so many times. Or you could commit yourself to 3 sessions, and if you make it to 1 or 2 or 3, awesome. But then mentally you're not beating yourself up every single time you don't make it to a session, because you realize the importance of that session for your main goal is not actually that high. And if we treat weights training as if it's the protective measure for our muscle tissue, and it's a thing that helps us create shape, it's a thing that's good for our mental health, and less that it's a fat burning tool, the better our results and our experience of trying to get there is going to be. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a mum of 1, and I go to the gym. On a good week, I'll go 3 times. I don't go any more than that. I physically cannot recover anymore. I'm so sleep deprived that if I was to do 4 sessions, I tried when I was pregnant. I tried after being pregnant as well. I tried postpartum with my daughter who, you know, doesn't sleep. Woo! At 2 years old, still going. I've tried to do more than 3 sessions a week and my body just doesn't hack it. No matter how much I eat, how much I try to sleep, I cannot recover. So 3 sessions is my good week, and I've just let it be what it is. My strength hasn't reduced. My strength has actually gotten better since doing 3 sessions, which is wild. And I focus on my steps every other day around that. And I'll talk about that in a second, right? So 3 sessions. But if I make it to 1 or 2 sessions, that isn't a failure of a week for me. Cool. Did I just prioritize my nutrition and my steps for the week and my training was the thing that went on the back burner? Yes. Does this mean I didn't have as much me time? Yes. Is that okay? And look, that happens as mums. We get it. Sometimes we've got to cancel our friggin' lash appointment. I don't get my lashes done, but sometimes you got to, you know what I mean? Cancel your massage and, you know, go deal with kids, pick up the kids. There's always something. And so I find that it annoys me that I miss my training session or I'm too tired to go, and even if I'm eating well, I just haven't slept. But at the same time, I'm like, do you know what? This isn't gonna hurt my goal to maintain my composition. And like at the moment, I'm not really trying to like grow a crazy amount of muscle because I did that for years. So like, I'm pretty good. I'm happy to just like cruise, right? And if it's, for example, fat loss is your goal and maintaining your composition, the muscle you've got is your goal, it's pretty easy. If you want to grow muscle, get more glutes, get more, you know, muscle in your legs, then yes, your training sessions will matter, but it's not a race. They all add up, right? So if you get one week and none the next and 2 the one after that, you're still progressing, you're still giving it everything that you've got. And I think that's what it is we can't train like other people. We can't do a male training program. They recover faster than us. They need less sleep and less recovery, right? They also don't need to try as hard when they're dieting. So fun fact, obviously with men, they burn more, but that in essence means that something that we would usually eat that would put us over our calories doesn't really impact them at all, right? So it's easier. You notice with men, they just eat what they want. And it's like, fucking hell, right? You just like, you know, all they have to do is just like one small change to their diet and all of a sudden you just stop drinking alcohol and then they just drop weight, fuck's sake. So that's it, right? So if you are going through coaches online or the internet and you're Googling and you're just like getting this random program, and I hate to tell you this, but if it's from some single dude who lives in an apartment by himself and doesn't even have a pet, unless he's like spent years with mums, I still don't know whether I would trust it. And I've seen like even PTs in gyms as well doing this to mums, like guilting them, making them feel really bad in situations they can't do their full program, placing way too much importance on their training and because then the mum never actually feels like she's, you know what I mean? I can never hit the mark, right? And so I'm not a person who, as a coach, I'm like, oh, it'll be right, she'll be right with everything. I always drill in the 2 things that matter the most. Obviously water as well, but that's nutrition. Food/water, fucking steps. I know you can't control your sleep most nights, and if you can, you know what you're doing. You're scrolling on the fucking internet. Just go for a walk on the walking pad instead and watch Netflix if you really want to wind down, but do it on the walking pad. But we both know, you and I know, on the nights you're not getting good sleep, when it's out of your control, that the last thing you want to hear from me is you need more sleep. Like, fuck off. And don't you think I know that? Don't you think I know that when my daughter was like crying at 3 o'clock this morning and couldn't tell me why? Like, yeah, I get it. Don't you think I know that when, you know, as she gets older, she might be out at the party and I can't sleep because I'm worried about her? It doesn't stop. No matter what phase you're at as a mum, it doesn't stop. The worry, the concern, the getting up, you just literally don't sleep for the rest of your life. And then you go through menopause and you have even more trouble sleeping. I'm really selling this, aren't I? So I guess what I'm trying to say is you need individualized nutrition and exercise programming and recommendations, because you need someone to actually look at your life. And this is why I get on phone calls with people who want to become new clients, because I actually look at their life and I tell them, this is what you need to be doing. This is what we need to do for you, right? Instead of just firing the same shit at the people, right? And going, okay, well, in this circumstance, I'm going to recommend 5 training days or 4 training days, no matter what, and your step count is, you know, 10,000 a day. And I'm not even considering like your profession or anything, right? No, I don't do that. That brings me to my next point. Step count. And then I'll end with feasibility of food. Your step count. Oftentimes coaches will prescribe a 10,000 step count, yeah? It's like, how many of you as mums are busy, you're working mums, you work in an office, it's really hard because you sit down all day, or maybe you've got a newborn and you know, you're always nap trapped, whatever that might look like, but like you're sedentary, we call it sedentary. Now, having some hero come along and be like, hey, by the way, 10,000 steps is associated with bleh, like, it's just a random number. It's a nice round number the government chose. And to be completely fair, the evidence actually supports 7,000 steps as being the mark that improves your cardiovascular health, your heart health, right? So, I often speak to new clients and my clients, sorry if you can hear my grating, passionately grating the pumpkin. I often speak to my clients, current clients and my new clients, and I say, if you're struggling to fit all of this in, try to reduce your training sessions to 3. If you miss your training sessions, it's fine, just prioritize your steps. If your step count feels impossible to hit as well, so we're going down the ladder here. If all of this feels really overwhelming and the step count, you're just repeatedly not hitting it, let's reduce your goal, your target, to 6,000 to 8,000 steps instead of 8 to 10. Now, for first-time mums or newborn mums, right, even, you know, for any new mum, I usually reduce to 4,000 to 6,000, because in a day, it would be silly of me to ask you to go and do 6,000 to 8,000 steps every day with a newborn. So, some do, but I generally don't usually recommend it, especially while recovering from birth, C-section, while breastfeeding, it's a lot. That's a whole nother kettle of fish. But basically, your step count should be adjusted for your lifestyle and whether or not you are sedentary, obviously, as I mentioned, but whether it's feasible. Feasibility and adherence is the main reason people don't follow a plan. And then that is my fourth point. I think I'm up to 4, maybe I'm up to 3. I don't know where I'm at now. Just in case you can't tell, I can't count sometimes. I am also sleep deprived today. The last point, let's finish with that. The last point is your nutrition planning has to be feasible. So for example, if you're a coach or you've gotten a plan off the internet, you bought it from some influencer, and they are saying to you, you need to eat a different meal every single day of the week for dinner. Excuse me, but if you have family, you've got a partner, you've got kids, and you're making a different meal for yourself every night of the week, and you're making different meals for other people every night of the week, that is a lot. So it has to be simple, something you can stick to, and they give you options like we do. For example, you can follow the same day of a meal plan for a whole week and decide to change it when you do your grocery shop. You can do that, that's perfectly fine. We give you variety, we give you up to 7 different days worth of meal plans, but you only have to follow one for as long as you like until you get bored of that food and then change it. Or you can do a 2-day rotation if you really like variety. What this does is it takes out something called decision fatigue and of course time. If you're meal prepping, making one meal for the entire week is easier than making, 14 of them, right? But obviously you will have variety across your day. We do that because you need variety across your day. You can't just eat, spaghetti bolognese for every meal, right? So, but we need to consider things like how easy is it? Breakfast, feasibility, for a lot of our mums, it's a smoothie. It's really fast. They can sip it in the car. So feasibility of a plan is our main focus with our mums, because if they can't follow it, they won't follow it. Yeah? How many snacks you have, how much time you have to have those snacks, what your hunger levels are like at certain times of the day. If you find, even with the program, that you are getting sugar cravings at night, with your protein amounts, right? If your protein is slightly too low, your hunger hormones will be higher, so we can increase your protein. This is the stuff, personalization, adjustments, changes that you need, that you're probably bloody missing. And of course, of the feasibility, whether or not your family can eat the meals, which as you can see, I'm literally doing this now, because at the end of the day, this stops you from having to make 4 different fucking meals. And the only difference is that if your kids are in those younger age ranges, you can gauge how much they'll eat. It might be, for example, you know, half your portion or a quarter of your portion. They'll tell you when they're full, they usually do. And then your partner, 1.5 to 2 times your portion. At the end of the day, like if he's not tracking his food currently, it doesn't fucking matter, he's a dude. Like he probably needs more protein, more carbs, and he'll figure it out. Or he can come and sign on with us, get his own coach. Moral of the story is, needs to be feasible. If it's not feasible, you won't fucking follow it. We know that, right? It needs to be easy, doable. So this is why it needs to be personalized. And then we can give you the recommendations on how to make it all work, make it all fit into your day. And that is the biggest struggle. It's not the meals. The meals are delicious. They're amazing, right? They're even more feasible because they're yummy. So feasibility, we have to tick all these boxes. Is this good for mums? Is this good for mums? If, for example, I had a male bodybuilder who was in his 20s, wasn't in a relationship, worked a part-time job, lived in a small apartment, had a cleaner, you know, didn't really have any sort of main responsibilities, well, of course I could give him different meals. Or if he didn't want them, he could just eat chicken and fucking broccoli and rice and avocado every day because he doesn't care about the flavour. His family doesn't care. So see what I mean here when I talk about feasibility and the individual person and what they require, and of course preferences, foods. So if there's allergies in your family, if you've got food preferences that you want taken care of, you know, everything like that, we take all of that into consideration. This is why you need personalisation. This is why getting a meal plan from a random stranger on the internet and not from someone who understands the needs of mums is going to see you try to do this and crash and burn pretty quickly. Now, I won't go into the next part of it, which is accountability, which is super crucial for adherence, meaning someone to keep you on track unless you're a self-accountable person. But what I will say is that mums, from the accountability perspective, not just from the personalizing of meal plans, but even something as sensitive as accountability needs to be personalized. For example, obviously, the way that you would speak to a person, a client, who is not a mother, who is single, doesn't have a lot of, you know, commitments in life. I was once there, about them not chasing their goals and not doing their meal prep and, well, you know, not making the best of choices, would be that you could probably be a bit firmer with them. You probably could be a bit more, okay, like, what are we doing here, right? With mums, you need to show significant empathy. And of course, there will be those tough conversations. But for example, as mothers, both Chloe, Coach, we both get it. We're both there all the time in the trenches. And we can figure out, we can gauge, especially about frequency, at what point that our women need someone to rouse on them, which we don't often do because they rouse on themselves enough. Or basically just say, look, hey, I think we're in a bit of a spiral here. It's a pattern. And it's usually that. It's usually if we see it's a pattern and it's over and over again, but not necessarily like new mums. I mean, as in mums with like slightly older kiddos. And the pattern is more like not considering themselves, not remembering themselves, putting themselves on the back burner, telling themselves they don't matter, and putting stuff off and procrastinating. And usually they will tell us, right? That's stuffed. Let's try this one. Oh my gosh, my garlic powder and my onion powder. What's going on? I'm making a right mess here. So that's it, I'm not putting herbs in today. It's a very real podcast. So literally, have you guys ever had that? Your garlic powder just goes to shit. So personalization, every facet. Personalization of your food, personalization of your training, personalization of the actual accountability and coaching side of things. And this is the difference between getting the help and support that you actually need, the proper like structure and routine around your life and being a mum, right? the difference between doing that and going and signing up with some dude because he looks good because he's got a six pack and going, fuck, this isn't right for me at all, and I feel miserable because I can't hit his fucking targets and I can't reach his mark that he set for me, this benchmark. You're not meant to. You're not meant to. He is not programming accordingly for you as a mum. And that is pretty much the end of my podcast. I'm going to wash my hands again because I've got pumpkin and shit all over them. I realised that I've got way too many veggies in that spaghetti bolognese, so I'm not going to put carrot in it. I'm just going to change this recipe slightly today. And my pasta is not burning just yet. So thanks for tuning in. There's probably a lot more that I missed as to why you should have personalised nutrition, training and accountability. It just keeps going. Your cycle, your menstrual cycle, where you are postpartum, recovery, breastfeeding, the list goes on. There are so many parts of a woman's body, hormones and metabolic function that we need to consider in the process of programming, and then lifestyle factors, behavioural stuff. So it is just a bigger picture that needs to be considered. And if that's not being considered, usually the client is left feeling like it's their fault, and that is not okay. That is it from me. If you listen to my podcast and you're not a current client, it's usually current clients that listen, but we do get some non-clients, especially if you're trying to get to know me and be like, who the fuck's this chick? Who is this chick talking to me in my DMs? I do a lot of conversations in DMs. If you're listening and you're like, do you know what? This is for me. Just reach out. Have a chat to us. We have limited onboarding spaces each week as to how many people we can fit in to our business. There's only so many of us. We do have a big team, but it's really important you get onto it rather than leaving it, because obviously there's time to do these things and we don't have all the time in the world. So thank you very much. Looking forward to doing, I can tell I need to eat. Looking forward to doing another podcast for you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.